What is going on, everyone? I'm not just talking about any ordinary LEGO Creator Mustang today. No, because this is something special. Today, I'm walking you through how I made my motorized LEGO Creator Mustang using the Mindstorms Robot Inventor 51515. So don't go anywhere. If you're new here, my name is Kyle and you are watching BuilderDude35, a YouTube channel that's all about LEGO Mindstorms, projects, tutorials, you name it, I have it. Today's video is all about how I made this, my Mindstorms powered Mustang, or Mindstang as I like to call it. I'm very clever. I got the idea to buy this LEGO set and then motorize it with Mindstorms from one of my longtime viewers named Jimmy. He's been watching this channel forever, and so I felt like it was a cool idea and I wanted to honor it. A couple of weeks ago, I actually made a review on the vanilla version of this LEGO set. You can check that out here. And then I decided it wasn't cool enough and I needed to add some motors. One thing that I wanted to keep as a goal throughout is I wanted to retain the styling of the original car. And I think I accomplished that mission for sure. So if you look at this car, it's not completely obvious that I did anything to modify it from the exterior. The only thing is that the rear fender pieces are actually missing, and that's probably something you'll only notice if you're super familiar with this model and you look closely. And of course, all of the interior stuff is gone. You'll see the brick and the motors in there, but that of course is something that you would have to expect. Of course, the biggest challenge when you're adding Mindstorms components to any LEGO set is just how the heck do you fit everything in there? Usually the hardware components are way too large to fit inside the original LEGO designer's design. And of course, that was still a big challenge here, but thankfully, the Robot Inventor, as well as the Spike Prime, because they're the same thing, come with new hardware, motors, and the brick that are much smaller than the predecessors from EV3 or NXT. If you're interested in learning about that, check out my review here where I talk about that. Anyway, most of this project was really just an exercise in being clever with what pieces I can remove from the original model in order to make room for the Mindstorms components that I wanted to add in. I will start at the heart of the robot, and that is the intelligent hub. If you can see, if you open up either of the doors, you can see the intelligent hub is just right there in the cockpit where all of the interior bits would be. As a matter of fact, to accommodate this, I stripped out all of the interior parts that were included, so that's the seats, the dashboard, the center console, the shifter, even most of the back seats are gone too. And the brick itself is actually just friction fitted in there. Now, friction fitted is just a technical term because I'm too proud to admit that I was just lazily just sticking the brick in there, but that's literally all it is I just slid the brick in there. It's not like hard connected or anything, but it stays where it needs to go. And it happens to be the exact same size as the interior cavity when you rip out all of the interior stuff that you don't really care about. So here, a very lazy design actually ended up paying off, which is pretty cool. The brick actually remains access to all of its buttons, so the power button, the left right button, and the Bluetooth button, which you can reach by reaching in through the windows. I think this is a pretty streamlined way to just kind of integrate the brick into the car because you still retain its functionality. As a matter of fact, my original idea for placing the brick when I bought the set was to do it under the hood in here, and I thought I could clear out all of the kind of engine gubbins in here. It turns out actually that you can't do that because the engine bay, while it is long and wide enough, it's actually too shallow to fit the brick. And in addition, there's this big 40-tooth gear that's hidden underneath the engine block, so to speak, and that's what animates the steering. So putting it there would have been a much more involved job, and putting it in the cabin actually was the path of least resistance and worked out much better in my opinion. The next thing, of course, is the steering. If you notice, right on top of the intelligent hub, the steering motor is right there, and this was kind of the easiest part actually. If you saw my review, you know that this set actually already comes with built-in functional steering. So that means if you turn the steering wheel, it steers the front wheels, which is pretty sweet. So to make the steering work, all I really had to do was take the steering wheel off, add another universal joint and some more axles, and route that power up to the motor on top of the intelligent hub, and now it works just fine. Again, simplicity is really the key. This project wasn't all smooth sailing though. The drive motors were actually the most difficult part, and it's actually what I expected to be the most difficult part. If you look through the back window, you can see two twin drive motors. So this uses two drive motors to power each of the rear wheels, and each drive motor actually independently powers one rear wheel. So the left drive motor powers the left wheel, right drive motor powers the right wheel. This was pretty tricky to integrate. I had to rip out some stuff, not only from like the interior bits like the rear seats, but I also kind of had to carve away at the shell a little bit to make these drive motors fit, and then it was kind of a clever placing of gears to get it to work. I ended up using one more 36 tooth gear than is included in the set because the 51515 kit only comes with one, so I ended up using two. But other than that, I really stuck with the hardware that was in the kit. One aspect of this build that I'm particularly proud to show off is that you can actually wiggle the entire back section of the car a little bit, and the entire back half of the shell comes up. So that's the roof, and then everything to the rear of the doors kind of hinges up, and then you could just see the drivetrain is all exposed right there, which I think is pretty sweet, honestly. It kind of reminds me of a Ferrari F40 where the whole back lifts off and then you have all this access to the engine. And it's great for showing off the drivetrain that I've added. Looking at the car now after the conversion, it's clear that the rear axle is permanently raised, so it doesn't have that raised lower feature. But the original model also had the functionality to raise that rear axle, so it really doesn't look out of place to see the rear axle being higher than normal, because it's still within the range that you would be able to adjust it in the original Lego set. These two motors together on this gear ratio are enough torque to move the robot forward, which is great. It's not particularly fast, but I feel like it is fast enough, and you still have all of your trunk space available. Making each drive motor power each wheel independently left me with the option to do kind of like an electronic style differential, and so you can electronically vary the speed when the car is turning such that the inside wheel slows down a little bit. I didn't actually have a lot of time to spend on this build, so I didn't actually end up doing that. The option's absolutely there and it would make the turning a whole lot smoother. I whipped up a simple program using the tablet app, and it just has two sliders, one to control the throttle forwards and backwards, one to control the steering left and right, and the steering always auto centers after you release the slider. This is cool because it has proportional controls. One thing you'll notice though is that the steering mechanism itself is a little bit too sloppy to really be that usable. This is just a fault of the kind of design that was already there, because like I said, I just slapped a motor onto it. For the Lego Creator set, having a steering that's this wobbly is fine, but if you want to actually use precision driving, it starts becoming an issue. So maybe a future revisit is to rethink the way the steering is done. But the controls are easy enough to use, and the car's not super fast, so you don't need that much precision. And rolling it around, it just looks kind of sweet actually. I'm personally pretty pleased with how this project turned out. It wasn't like super ambitious of a project, but it did have its own challenges. But overall, in summary, I'm pretty pleased with how this project came out. So if you have a Lego Creator Mustang and you're interested in motorizing it with Robot Inventor or Spike Prime, this is the way to do it. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you learned a lot, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.